I'm just talking, top rope walking, ultimate Xing, serious flexing, never be vague with your boy Craig, and opinion mixing from Pete to Nixon, keep doing things in an impactful way, bloody nonsense as the Brits say, talking bloody nonsense.
Yes, it's me, it's the MIC Craig, aka Mr. Impact, and of course I'm joined by the excellent Peter Nixon. This is Talking Bloody Nonsense, episode 7, right here on the TNA IW channel. It's a new week, new Impact, lots to talk about yet again. But first things first, Nixon, how's it going?
Yeah, all good. I've been busy.
Yes.
I know you're aware, but I might as well make our listeners aware, our audience aware. I just did an interview with Len Davies, who has done so much, not just in wrestling, but in the entertainment business. Did the interview yesterday. I had a whole list of things I wanted to talk to him about. We were talking for an hour, and we talked about half the stuff on the list. So we're going to have to do a part 2 at some point, and Glenn's up for it. So yeah, you'll be seeing that on YouTube, and hopefully it's going to be tagged on the end of this episode.
Yes, stick around, and you never know your luck. You might get to see it before it's released for the rest of the world on YouTube at a later date. But as I said, it's this week with Impact. It's been another interesting one. Not necessarily with Impact news, but Impact-related news. I'm sure we've all seen it by now, but I guess let's get into our main headline of this week, and it is, of course, Mickie James in the Royal Rumble. Now, I want to get your feelings on, because it was surrounded by quite a bit of buzz. You know, many people are saying that it was the highlight of the Rumble, or at least one of them, and a pretty big one at that. And not just in the women's Rumble with Mickie James being introduced as the Impact Women's Champion, but also in the men's Royal Rumble, there's a little segment between AJ Styles and Bobby Roode, and a very, very audible TNA chant started to kick off. So, yeah, what's your thoughts on Mickie, the buzz, how you think it's benefited Impact, and, yeah, throwing your thoughts on the TNA chant as well, why not?
Well, I was very vocal last week on the pod about the fact that I thought Mickie James would never be able to use her Impact Wrestling theme tune, never be able to enter with the championship belt. Sure enough, we're watching it live at my pub on the projector through the PA. We have a great setup there. And yeah, the lads and ladies all was like, oh, never use a TNA theme, will they? Nah, never come out with a belt, will they? Nah. Yeah, I got ribbed mercilessly for that. Yeah. But yeah, I've watched the moment back, you know, on YouTube and Twitter, and because it's been shared, the fan cam footage has been shared of it as well, and the pop was fantastic. You know, people recognised the theme tune, and people were hyped for the fact that the Impact Knockouts champion was in the Royal Rumble. So yeah, it was a very exciting moment. She had a good little showing. Did roundabout, the time that I expected. Not too long, not too short. She had a good little showing, and yeah, very positive, outcome there.
Yeah, I was hoping very much that she would come out to Hardcore Country, and then she did. Honestly, I watched it live as well. When they were doing the countdown and stuff, and obviously for every entrant, I was thinking, is this Mickie? Is this going to be Mickie? And when it was Mickie, it took me a second to realize that they're playing Hardcore Country. It took me a few seconds, like, oh shit, they're actually using it, and then actually comes with the Knockouts Championship.
Because we are so used to hearing that theme tune that it doesn't automatically register.
Right, watching the WWE, it's like, is that what I think it is? And then, of course, it is. She comes out with a Knockouts World Championship. Now, and I don't think everyone got a banner on the screen to introduce them, did they? I can't remember now. So Mickie came out, she got that. You know, she got Hardcore Country, she got the title. She managed to. It was very, very clearly announced on commentary.
Yeah, and the banner said Impact Women's Champion.
Yeah, exactly. Is amazing to see. You know, never in a million years I think that this would be a possibility, especially when it comes to Impact and WWE. But on the flip side of that, WWE and Impact have always, since Anthem came in, Scott and Don and Ed Nordholm, about 2 months into their run in charge of Impact, they went to WWE. They had a meeting with Triple H, and they just let them know that they're there. Which that obviously led to a relationship, if you like, where they exchanged footage, you know, for many different things that you can still see on the network, unless Peacock's taken it off. But it's, I mean, what a moment! Like you said, Mickie had a fantastic run in there, and it got me thinking whether we could see more. I mean, I think Mickie only got one elimination. That was Michelle McCool.
Yeah.
But even so, a lot of people didn't think she'd even get that. I think Mickie came in at number 20, which
something like that.
Left a lot of people wondering whether that was like a little nod to Impact because it was their 20th anniversary. I don't know, maybe reading too much into that one.
I think that's a coincidence. But
yeah,
if it's not, that's really cool.
Yeah, I think it might be reading a little bit too much into that one. But it was still just a phenomenal moment to see. Speaking of phenomenal, in the men's Royal Rumble, of course, Bobby Roode and AJ Styles had a little face-to-face. First time they've seen each other, not on camera anyway, in years, in kayfabe, if you like. They haven't really interacted that much. And when they did, a fair few people started a TNA chant, which, again, something I never thought I'd see on a WWE show. I have seen it on a WWE show before, a few times. But, I mean, the last time TNA was mentioned was that little dig from Kurt Angle to Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. So, something I never dreamed of seeing. I would love to know what Roode and Styles are thinking at that moment.
Well, I think that moment was set up purely to get a TNA chant, because why? They're not feuding. I don't think they've ever feuded in WWE. Why would those two face off in the Royal Rumble if it wasn't to get a TNA chant and to get that little moment for Impact Wrestling? I was watching it with, as I said, some of my friends, and Frank Fiat, the man who produced our intro theme.
Yes, thank you.
We both threw up the Fortune 4.
Good old Fortune. Good old Fortune.
Yeah, so that was a very cool moment, and wasn't necessary at all. WWE didn't need to do that, but it was very cool to see.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, that was just a huge rub for Impact. It can't be ignored. I mean, maybe it has something to do with the rise in TV ratings on Access. Maybe that was a part of it, or maybe it was part of the New Japan stuff. But we might get into that a little bit more in the next subheading. But I mean, that was Mickie James, Impact Wrestling Knockouts World Champion in the WWE Royal Rumble, and had a decent run. I think it was around the 10-minute mark, maybe. I don't know. I didn't particularly count that much. And then after Mickie was eliminated, she went backstage to do an interview for a digital exclusive interview for WWE's social medias. And even they again mentioned that she is the Knockouts, the Impact Women's Champion, which the Impact fan side of me wanted to scream out saying, no, it's the Knockouts Championship. But I understand all of that. And also, again, unfortunately, there were a few people online still who were complaining again about WWE not tagging Impact in the posts. I mean, it is a stupid, naggy little thing. It's not important because And you have Google, you have Twitter, you can find out who Impact are without WWE tagging them. But I mean, just great stuff. And obviously, you mentioned with the TNA champ being set up, maybe Shane McMahon was looking for a new job.
Yeah, that's true. That's come out today, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't know what
big
exactly has happened there, but yeah. I can't see Shane going to any other wrestling company. I think he'll come up with another venture.
Yeah. I can't see Shane coming anywhere else. But I mean, just what a great moment! It was arguably a highlight of the night, and the pop Mickie got, even though it felt like there's a few people in the audience who didn't quite know whose music was being played, but then the Tron came on, and it was pretty obvious after that point.
If I can just say, my highlight, beside Mickie James, my highlight of the Women's Rumble was Ivory.
Yeah, again,
when that Right to Censor music came on, because I thought Ivory might make an appearance, because she hasn't done a Rumble since she was inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Right.
And I thought, yeah, maybe this is the year we'll see Ivory. And what she did was just perfect. Very entertaining.
Agreed, and still looks phenomenal. Even
she looked exactly the same as she did in 2001.
Exactly, and I think I saw that she's approaching her 50s, which is
I think
mind
she's
blowing.
into her 50s.
Yeah, which is mind blowing. So big props to Ivory there, and the whole spiel on the mic, perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the Royal Rumble. I'm sure like many people, and like you said that you've gone back and watched it. I'm sure many people have gone back and watched that moment quite a few times. Believe it was it Pat McAfee on commentary? I can't remember. I can't remember. It sounded like I think it was Pat McAfee on commentary again who made it. Who popped for it quite a bit. Maybe it was it was Corey Graves and those three. So anyway, it was a long night.
It was Jimmy Smith that made reference to the Impact Knockouts Championship or Women's Championship, and I know a lot of people were up in arms about the banner saying Impact Women's Champion, but a casual WWE fan wouldn't know what a Knockouts Championship is. So the fact they call it Impact Women's Championship, I don't think it really makes any difference. Didn't offend me anyway.
No, I think it's because WWE call their titles the Women's Championships, so it's not a big deal. It's still nobody thought they'd even make reference to the fact she was even with Impact, let alone let her come out to her theme, which I'm guessing means Mickie gets royalties as well.
Yeah, because it's her singing it, isn't it? It's her song.
Yeah, it's her song. She wrote it. She sang it. Yeah, on top of her paycheck, she gets royalties for the song as well.
Yeah. Oh, good for her.
Yeah, it comes out with a title. All in all, not a bad night for Mickie James, and not a bad night for Impact Wrestling.
Yeah.
So moving on, still sticking with Impact and their working relationships, we talk about Impact, New Japan Pro Wrestling, and Ring of Honor. I mean, especially over the last year and last 2 months with the Ring of Honor side. But I mean, the TV ratings on Access TV, it doesn't affect us here in the UK, but it was still the highest they've had in over a year. Nearly cracked the top 100 most watched shows of that night, I believe. Excuse me.
And considering the coverage that Access has, which I don't think it's in every single home in America.
No, you have to get a certain box to watch it through. Max and Jeff on the main show, they know more about it than we do. They've spoken about it many times. You can hear their take on it on episode 77, which is available on YouTube and audio now. And make reference to the TV ratings there and go into a bit more depth on it. We're just looking at it from an Impact perspective on how these forbidden doors swinging every which way but loose has been nothing but positive for Impact. I want to get your take on it. It's just we have the Bullet Club coming in, the Honor No More faction, Ring of Honor, Ring of Honor President Kerry Silkin, I believe he's the president. I should really have looked up in this, but I'm aware of who he is and how big of an impact he has on Ring of Honor. So, yeah, what's your thoughts on this whole situation? Surely it can only be positive for Impact, right?
Well, absolutely. I mean, the ratings have shown that this is working. The buzz around Impact right now, especially after Hard to Kill being such an incredible pay-per-view, and Honor No More, the Ring of Honor invasion, or is it? There's so many questions, a lot of cliffhangers, and that's compelling television. That is how you write good television. You keep people wanting more. So yeah, obviously it's working. With the Bullet Club. I'd like to see Chris Bay pick up a few more wins. I know we spoke about it previously, but I'm guessing they've got plans. He hasn't been losing for no reason. They must have plans in place for Chris Bay and the Bullet Club over the next few weeks.
Got to be.
But yeah, I mean, what else can you say about it? Really, it's going very well. The Forbidden Door, the relationship with New Japan and Ring of Honor. And I'm just excited to see, where it goes in the future, in the very near future.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Since Anthem took over, I mean, TNA Impact have always had working relationships with other companies. They pride themselves on working with anyone who wants to work with them. I think they've worked with every major promotion in Japan now. Maybe not all Japan.
They've worked with All Japan in like 2003, 2004.
Yeah, so
for the original World X Cup. They brought over some of their crew, like Taiji Ishikari, and people like that.
Yeah, and worked with Dragon Gate.
Yep.
Of course, they had a working relationship with New Japan back in 2010, 2011. But at least said about that now, they're better. Because it's only positivity from now on with this relationship. Scott D'Amore, he prided himself on getting this relationship back up and running with New Japan by going over to Wrestle Kingdom and personally apologizing to New Japan and to Okada for what happened in TNA, which that's next level boss work.
Well, he didn't need to do that. It's not his fault that whoever was in charge at the time dropped the ball with Okada. They just didn't know what they had.
Yeah, exactly. And I believe at that time it was Russo, Jarrett, and Dixie and Hogan.
Yeah,
it was just just a bad mix of people right there.
A lot of balls dropped there, weren't there? A lot of people that should have been used more and have gone on to be the biggest stars in the world, like the Young Bucks.
Right. Yeah, it's a bad time in general, but this Impact Wrestling is a million miles away from TNA, and it needed to happen. I know a lot of people still say that they want to see the company rebranded back as TNA, which I think too much time's passed. You've got unfortunately still quite a few of people with a sour taste left in their mouth over all that.
Definitely, still people with the LOL TNA, headset. What I'd like to see is them do one TNA show every year.
Yeah,
bust out some of the old TNA regulars. Recreate a TNA set. Maybe bring back the 6-sided ring for one night. Ultimate X, King of the Mountain. Some TNA throwbacks. Monsters Ball, stuff like that for one night only of the year. Not go back to TNA every night of the year because, Impact Wrestling has moved on from that, like you said. But yeah, it'd be cool to have a nostalgia night once a year, as well as like Throwback Throwdown and something different. Just an Impact Plus special. I know they've done it in the past. I remember the last one they did. It was a few years ago, and I think it was just before the pandemic, wasn't it? So it had been years ago. And Johnny Swinger's on it, Scott Steiner,
Yeah.
They busted out some other people, and it wasn't great. They could have done a better job with it. But yeah, if they really throw, all they can at it and do a 3-hour Impact Plus special every year, there's no reason why they can't do TNA once a year.
Right, and you mentioned there the TNA show they did on Access, just as the pandemic was hitting full force. Obviously, that was in order to set up the following weekend for that TNA show at WrestleCon.
That's right, yeah.
They had King of the Mountain set up for the TNA World Championship, which was then, I think the plan then was to have the title on the line for that one night. But the world champion, which I believe was Brian Cage at the time. No, it must have been Tessa. It must have been Tessa.
It would have been Tessa Blanchard, yeah.
Yeah. So I think the plan was for Tessa to walk in with the TNA World Championship, but still be Impact World Champion.
Yeah.
And that, and obviously then that led to a great run with Moose, so not to another like that.
Yeah.
And obviously Chris Sabin was supposed to be in charge of that King of the Mountain. So it should have been a great night, and they are heading back to WrestleCon this year. I don't know who announced what they're doing. Maybe it's the time to pick up what they were going to do there and put it on at WrestleCon this year. I think they've announced what they're doing, but I'm not sure. But anyway, yeah, this TNA unfortunately needs to be left where it is. Remember it, celebrate it. Occasionally through a throwback, but leave where it is, because Impact Wrestling had to build back up from the bottom. Anthem coming in, they had to take over and start from scratch all over again to build a brand new company with a brand new reputation. And they've done one hell of a job, as proven by this relationship with New Japan and Ring of Honor, because New Japan have sent over some of their biggest stars. They've sent over their, I believe it's the Neverweight Open champion, Jay White.
Mm-hmm.
Suzuki, which is still crazy to me that sent Suzuki over. They now trust Impact guys. Yes, Suzuki may have lost to Josh Alexander, but it didn't hurt him because it's Suzuki. It's the murder grandpa.
Yeah.
Nothing gonna get in his way. And also, of course, speaking of the Forbidden Door and all that going on, today, the NXT batch of free agents are now free agents, including Keith Lee, Mia Yim, David Boy Smith Jr., and a few others. I did write them down, but I can't see the list now. It's unfortunate what happened, that they had to lose their job, but now looking at the positive side of it, do you see maybe any of them coming through the door at Impact? Impact do have a good history when it comes to the free agency market. If you look at their roster now, some of the biggest stars on their roster came from the WWE free agency pool, and they weren't really getting the push they maybe should have, and now they're in Impact and their stars. Deonna Purrazzo is a big proven point right there. So yeah, it's anyone particularly you'd like to see come, or just have at it with this free agency.
Yeah, I'd love to see Keith Lee come to Impact, but I think most of the names that are now free agents will end up in AEW. I know last night on Dynamite, Jon Moxley wrestled Brian Kendrick. I don't know if he's signed a contract or if it was a one-off deal, because Moxley's feuding with Bryan Danielson, and the link there with Danielson and Kendrick. And maybe that's what we could see more of going forward, is people popping up in AEW for a short period, like Matt Cardona did, before then transitioning to another company, or trying to make their name on the indies for when they eventually maybe go back to WWE, because it's something that I can see. Killer Cross, for example, I just can't see where he's going to end up. He's burnt his bridge with Impact. I can't see AEW being interested in him. The only place for Cross right now that makes sense is Japan.
Yeah.
And then for him to build his name like a Lance Archer or a Davey Boy Smith Jr., who, made their names when they got released from WWE. They went to Japan, made themselves massive stars, and now Lance Archer is one of the top contenders for the title on AEW. And Davey Boy Smith, he got his chance to go back there to WWE. It didn't work out, unfortunately. But now he's got just a wide open horizon for where he could land. He's got links with MLW, New Japan. He could walk right into Impact. And he's another guy that, because Brian Pillman Jr. is in AEW, they were the Hart Foundation in MLW. Davey Boy Smith could walk right into AEW. Could even be, of course, Dynamite was last night. We haven't seen it yet, but he could have debuted on Dynamite last night. Who knows? It wouldn't surprise me. I think Davey's the one that excites me the most for where he could end up. I think Keith Lee and Mia Yim will also, in time, end up in AEW. I'd love to see Mia Yim come back to Impact, but I think she'll go where Keith goes, and for me, Keith belongs in AEW. They need, especially with everything that went on with Tony Khan and the diversity debate, I think he'd be foolish not to try and sign Keith Lee for the, and make him one of the biggest stars on their roster. The only other name that I think should end up back in Impact is Taya Valkyrie.
For sure. Taya is a must.
Yeah. Again, it's someone who could walk into whatever company she desires, but she belongs in Impact for me, because that's the company that put her on the map. Well, I know she made her name in AAA and Lucha Underground, but she became the star she is in Impact Wrestling, and I'd love to see her come back and carry on where she left off.
Yeah, Taya is a star, and still to say the longest reigning Impact Knockouts World Champion. So it makes perfect sense. She can come right back. She has some time away, so she can come in with a fresh storyline. She can feud with Rosemary or even feud with Havoc for teaming with Rosemary. She has. Obviously the whole thing with Larry D, but obviously, unfortunately, as you may or may not be aware, Larry D last night requested his release from Impact Wrestling, and I think, like AC Romero, it may take a few days, but Larry D will be a free agent by next week, which unfortunately, because I was a big fan of Larry D, and it could have done a lot more than they did, but he's going to kill it wherever he goes, because he's a big man, and maybe he'll probably end up on Rampage or something, or Dark, but I don't think he's focused on just wrestling now. If he's going off onto other things, so best luck to him wherever he ends up. And he has an open invite to come on here or TBNChats whenever he wants.
Best right hand in the business.
Oh yes, when he got signed, great stuff.
I think Larry D, if I could just talk about Larry D for 2 seconds, I think he saw the writing on the wall. I think he realised the storyline with the Lawrence D, what was it called, Ring Rust. I think he noticed it's not really going anywhere. I don't think they've got plans for me. There's all these free agents. I think I'm going to get overlooked here. It's time for me to go and prove myself elsewhere, and then he can walk into whatever company he wants after that. But yeah, it's a shame we're losing Larry D, but yeah, best of luck to him. I'm sure he'll be absolutely fine.
Yeah, Yeah, he's essentially a veteran. He's been around for years, and he did fine leading up to Impact, and he'll do more than fine now. Now he has more exposure and a bigger brand to his name. So all the best to him. As for the free agency thing, just touch on it quickly. David Boy Smith, Ty Valkyrie, and Mia Yim. Those are the three I want. Those are the three I think Impact should just go for. And I think those are the three they have the best chance of signing.
Okay.
Yeah, so anywho, now we move on to our second subheading of the evening, the Impact pre-review. Impact pre-review. Re-preview. Yeah, re-preview, we'll go with that. We had on this week's Impact, started off with a solid match on BTI with Laredo Kid defeating Blake Christian, and big welcome back to Brian Stifler. Jake Something as Impact started off. Jake Something defeated Chris Bay before the Bullet Club. Tamatonga, Tangaloa, and Jay White came out after an attempted save by Speedball Mike Bailey as Bullet Club beat down Jake Something and Speedball Mike Bailey. Honor No More then entered the building, took their seats in the front row before Scott D'Amore came out and said, go. They said no. So now they have a match booked at No Surrender. But before we got to No Surrender, PCO will be taking on Chris Sabin in the main event in a rematch from TNA 2003. Then the Inspiration defeated the Influence, and you were correct, it was indeed a non-title match. Backstage, Speedball Mike Bailey, Jake Something, Ace Austin, and Madman Fulton plan on getting back at the Bullet Club, but of course the match has to be made official by management. And fortunately, Gail Kim just so happened to be backstage, and she booked it for next week. It is Speedball Mike Bailey, Jake Something, Ace and Fulton versus Bullet Club this week, tonight on Impact Wrestling. Then another backstage segment, you had Good Brothers by Design, Violent Good Brothers, whatever we're calling them, agreed to keep their working relationship intact to help take out Bullet Club. That was followed then by a State of the Knockouts address by Mickie James, who essentially just praised the roster and hyped up her entry into the Royal Rumble, which then was 2 nights away. Of course, it's now almost a week gone. That led to altercation between Savannah Evans, Tasha Steeles, Mickie James, and Chelsea Green. Also had a little back and forth between Mickie and Deonna. And then in an 8-on-1 handicap match, W. Morrissey defeats all 8 members of the Learning Tree before being attacked by Brian Myers, Moose, and the rest of the Learning Tree. That was followed up by a match. I thought that a match that went longer than I probably expected. Jonah defeated Johnny Swinger, which then Decay then came out to help Swinger in some confusing way. Still not what that was about, the whole Decay and Jonah and Swinger thing, but I guess we'll soon find out. And in the main event, PCO with Honor No More that defeated Chris Sabin with Eddie, Josh, Mac, Swan, Heath, Rhino, all those guys at ringside. An interesting development in that match. Honor No More took out Chris Sabin's legs for the ref seeing. Then Eddie Edwards blatantly in front of the referee, he knew he was the referee knew he could see him, took out PCO's legs, causing Team Impact to be sent to the back. That ended up with PCO getting an advantage to pick up the win, which of course then led to another brawl. I'll get your thoughts on that, particularly the actions of Eddie Edwards, even after the match when face-to-face with Vincent, but did not touch him. That, and then stopped Josh Alexander from putting on the ankle lock for too long. Get your thoughts on Impact this week.
Well, let's start from the top. We said last week about Blake Christian, the fact that he's really impressed me since being released from WWE, coming back to the Indies, and it's awesome to see him pop back up in Impact. He looks fantastic, and the match was tremendous against Laredo Kid. I'm not shocked. The guy is really, really good, and I've got high hopes for him. I don't know if he's going to be an Impact full-timer, but the stuff he's doing in GCW and everywhere else, good for him. I'm proud of him, and I've got really high hopes for what he does in the future.
Yes.
So let's talk about Jake something right quick. I know he's battling depression at the moment, and that's something that you've got a heavy interest in. I know you've got a project in the works in terms of talking about depression. Did you want to talk about that right quick?
It's just a thing where we're going to have a virtual roundtable with professional wrestlers, content creators, anyone who wants to be involved. Talk about how mental health has helped, how our mental health has affected us, and how wrestling has helped us battle our mental health. I myself suffer with mild depression, so it's not easy. But on here we're very, very supportive of mental health issues, and where we are if you want to reach out to us. But Carol, as you're saying.
Yeah, Jake something, good match with Chris Bay. Again, Jake something, for someone who was meant to be going out of the company, pick up a big win here. So I'm interested to see what happens there. If Jake something sticks around, we'd like to see him stick around, obviously. And then the announcement of the big 8-man tag on tonight's episode with Ace and Fulton on the babyface side. Interested to see what happens there. I like the pairing of Jake something and Speedball Mike Bailey. Obviously, they know each other from Canada. Destiny Wrestling, I think, is where they were prominently featured, and obviously they had the match a couple of weeks ago on Impact. So I like that pairing. Two totally different wrestlers, and then Ace and Fulton obviously are a tag team, two totally different guys. Same sort of dynamic there. Going up against the Bullet Club. I like GOD. I think they're a tremendous team. I love their vibe. I like their style. Just their swagger. I think they're tremendous. And Jay White, we were at Madison Square Garden. We saw Jay White against Okada in the main event, and the guy's incredible. So, and again, another guy that's got a lot of buzz about him. A guy that people were saying, I think 2 years ago, oh, yeah, he's definitely going to be in the Rumble this year. Oh, he's finished up with New Japan. He's going to be in the Rumble.
Back a week later.
Yeah.
Back in New Japan a week later.
Yeah, exactly. The casual WWE fan wouldn't have known who Jay White was. I'm sorry. I would love to have seen him in the Royal Rumble, but I knew that wasn't going to happen. So yeah, excited for that 8-man tag. Interested to see what happens there. Whether Ace and Fulton, they say it on Wrestle Talk every week, can they coexist?
Exactly.
Yeah. What else happened? So we had the Mickie James address the locker room, and that was a really cool segment. A lot going on there, and I know a lot of people were saying it went a bit long. It was the perfect amount of time. It accomplished exactly what it needed to. It set Mickie up for the Royal Rumble. It established Tasha as the heel contender for No Surrender. It got Chelsea involved in the angle, and obviously showcased Savannah. Deanna walked off, so what's happening there? Yeah. I'm guessing we're going to get a rubber match, a third match between Deanna and Mickie at some point. I would say in a ladder match or cage match, winner take all. I think that's how this feud needs to be blown off.
Okay.
And then, the main event with PCO and Chris Sabin. you know, I've made no bones about it. I'm a huge PCO guy. I think the guy, regardless of his age, the man is phenomenal. He can do stuff that I can't do. So, yeah, PCO and Chris Sabin, really, really good main event. Had a good amount of time dedicated to it. And the whole Eddie Edwards thing, I still can't help but think this is all a red herring.
Oh.
So obviously, you know, as you said, Eddie did it right in front of the ref's face and got the front line sent back to the locker room. So, you know, Honor No More could stay ringside and PCO pick up the victory. And then after the match ended, he pulled Josh off of the ankle lock. I think he went to hit Vincent with the stick and stopped short, allowed Vincent to powder. Yeah. I think Vincent is wrestling on tonight's episode, isn't he?
He is. He's facing Josh Alexander.
There you go. Interested to see, you know, how that plays out and the whole Eddie dynamic, because they need to start calling Eddie out on his actions.
Yeah.
And I just can't help but think it's a red herring and someone else is the mole. Because we've seen it before, you know, we've seen Bully Ray be established as the leader of Aces and Eights. You know, the educated audience member, you know, the educated watcher of Impact Wrestling will see these things. And I guess it's a reward for being a loyal watcher. But yeah, I just can't help but think it's a red herring. And it's because it's obvious. It's almost too obvious. I don't know. Yeah. What do you think about the whole Eddie Edwards thing?
I think they're going to do it. Eddie will turn heel at No Surrender. Right. Eddie will turn his back on Impact. Because when he does, especially if it's in front of an avid, like, Impact faithful crowd, Eddie will get booed out of the building. He's turned his back on Impact Wrestling. He has missed Impact Wrestling. He has missed anything as possible. So he's the heart and soul. So for him to turn his back on Impact, I really want him to get that big, just heel reaction, because it will piss me off. That's for sure. It will, even though I'm expecting it. I know it's coming. I think I know it's coming. I will be so pissed off at Eddie, which is what I want. I want to be pissed off at him for doing it. If he does do it, which it's seeming more likely. It really is. I don't want him to by any means, but
I'm getting vibes. I'm getting 1996 vibes of. So if Josh Alexander is Lex Luger and Eddie Edwards is Sting, is Sting going to join the NWO? Luger, Josh accuses Sting of being part of Honor No More. I told you I'm the the heart and soul of Impact Wrestling. And he finally shows his true colors, and either he is or he isn't the mole. If he isn't, and it's all a red herring, Eddie can then change his character up and, you know, do like Sting did. You know, become a bit of a darker, edgier character because no one believed he was loyal to Impact.
And so if it does come to fruition that Eddie is behind all of this, I kind of want to mix between the reactions of, like, in Impact terms, Bully Ray and Jeff Hardy. I want something in the middle of Bully Ray and Jeff Hardy, because, man, it's good. It has potential to be one of the best heel turns in Impact, if done right, of course. But I mean, we'll soon see. And now we get on to this week's Impact Wrestling, and the card, as announced so far, is, of course, we have the Speedball Mike Bailey, Jake Something, Ace and Fulton versus Bullet Club. We have Matt Cardona versus Chelsea Green for the Digital Media Championship. We have Jonathan Gresham versus Steve Macklin in a non-pure rules, non-title match. Jonah versus Crazy Steve. Vincent versus Josh Alexander. And John Skyler versus Bhupinder Gurjar hope I said that name right. Looking forward to on that card. And is this? I mean, it has potential to be another banging episode from Impact. But what are your thoughts?
I don't know who Bhupinder is. I'm guessing it's a Raj Singh or Gamma Singh protege that they're bringing in to sort of re-establish the Desi Hit Squad.
I'm not entirely sure. I think he's. I don't know. I'm on the same boat as you. I don't know a lot about him to assume that I've never heard of him before now. But I guess we'll see what he can do.
Yeah. Whatever happened to Mahabali Shira?
I honestly don't know. I know he popped up in OVW last week, but that's about it. He popped up in OVW because obviously he's good friends with Al Snow and is one of the trainers at the Al Snow Wrestling Academy in London.
Right.
So, but apart from that, I don't know. He keeps popping in and out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm interested to see what happens there. The match I'm looking forward to is Macklin and Gresham in a wrestling match, in a traditional, wrestling match, as opposed to the pure rules style match. I think this is where Macklin gets his win back, and he starts to get a bit of momentum going again, because he's got, the last two matches he's lost after, winning every single match or not losing a match since his debut, to then losing two on the trot. Macklin needs a win, and could Honor No More get involved in that? And is Gresham involved in Honor No More? We don't know. So yeah, that's the match I'm looking forward to. I think Jonah and Crazy Steve. I'm interested to see Swingers Dungeon. Because it's the next, evolution from Swingers Palace, isn't it? So, when you hear the word dungeon, you automatically think, deviant sex stuff, right? So that's not what Swingers got going on. It's Stu Hart's dungeon. It's the Hart dungeon, it's Swingers Dungeon. So he's obviously training wrestlers down there. But what is going on down there? We don't know. So I'm interested to see what happens there with with Johnny Swinger and Decay. And yeah, obviously Jonah's going to squash Crazy Steve. There's no doubt in my mind about that.
Right.
But yeah, looking forward to that one.
Yeah, this can be a great card, and as tonight on Impact, Matt Cardona versus Jordan Grace for the Digital Media Championship. Is this the night where we see Matt Cardona turn heel? If he wins, even if he doesn't win, this is a perfect opportunity to have the Matt Cardona from the independent scene. This is it. This is the chance to have the Deathmatch King on Impact. So either way, I'm expecting a turn from Cardona, which I don't know if it'll be a turn because the crowd will love it. They love it everywhere he goes. So I'm not sure if it'll be a complete heel turn. But besides that, Speedball, just something, and Ace and Fulton versus Bullet Club. What a match that is going to be. Speedball Matt Bailey has been in the company a few technically been signed for a few months, only been there a couple of weeks, and he's already facing Bullet Club. He's facing New Japan's top promotion, and he's teaming with Ace Austin, who is one of the biggest homegrown talents Impact have, along with Chris Bay, who he's facing. This is going to be incredible to watch. And Lance Storm, and he seems to be very, very much interested in this match.
Right.
Yeah, put out a little tweet wondering if Brian Alvarez is going to watch this one. And of course, there's a lot of comments on that one. But it's just, I'm not sure on the squash match between Chris and Steve, but I'm looking forward to either way. But now it's time for the final 10, 10, 10. So it was, I realized this week, thanks to someone I'm friends with on Facebook, that it's been 6 years since Impact Wrestling last had a full UK tour, a Maximum Impact tour. I mean, and that's just crazy to think about, considering the market they have over here. But again, last year we were supposed to get a new tour. But obviously this little thing called COVID, you know, and they did come over to the UK in 2018 for MediaCon, where they had a great show against the wrestlers from the UK. And speaking of that, is when Impact do eventually come back to the UK, because it has to be inevitable now by now. What are the things you would like to see? Because I know there's been some calls for another British boot camp. Of course, when they do come over here, they do a great job in showcasing the local talent. So is there anything particular you want to see if Impact do come back over to the UK? Well, when they come back over to the UK, what is something that you've been wanting to see from a UK tour?
Right, I've been thinking about this today. So when Impact come back over to the UK, I want to see Impact Wrestling. I don't need to see all these UK talent on the show, because the casual fan and certainly people that, you know, go to independent wrestling shows in the UK will already have seen these people. They want to see people they haven't seen before. They want to see the stars of Impact Wrestling against the stars of Impact Wrestling. They don't need to see all the UK guys who they see every other weekend. And I know this is going to piss people off. I'm really taking an opportunity for myself here. If
say it.
yeah, I mean, I would obviously, it was my dream to wrestle for Impact Wrestling, but yeah, when Impact tour the UK, it needs to be Impact Wrestling. It doesn't need to be Impact versus Rev Pro, or Impact versus Progress, or Impact versus DOA Wrestling.
Just
it needs to be Impact Wrestling. We need to see the storylines that are going on at that very moment. We need to see the title matches that have been built up on Impact. You know, we need to see the current champions against established contenders. As I say, I'm sure I piss people off with that, but I stand by it. And how do you feel about what I've just said?
I can completely understand where you're coming from. You know, like you said, people are paying to see Impact Wrestling, and there's a good chance maybe they won't. I can't see them sticking to the same venues they used to, because times have changed, the company's changed. So maybe it won't be as expensive. But no, I can understand people paying their money to come and watch Impact. I mean, I would love to see some local talent pop up on the show, you know, because there is some incredible talent over here, and the world should have the opportunity to see them. Even though now it is a lot easier for the world to see these talents, because you know, these talent, of course, everyone has posted matches on YouTube now. They have social media; they can get their name out without necessarily the help of Impact Wrestling. But I liked that part of the UK tour when they bring in some local talent, because at that point I wasn't really following the UK scene, because we didn't really have much of a scene at that point. It was obviously there was still a fair few shows around, but it wasn't as big as it is now, or was 2-3 years ago. It's not. It wasn't at its peak yet. So we had the likes of Big Damo, who obviously where he ended up, but now he's back on the free agency market. Again, is someone Impact should definitely be looking into.
Absolutely.
Even go back to the British boot camp, you know, the amount of talent who appeared on there, and to see where they are now. You look, I mean, yes, they didn't really have much major success with the rest of the brought in through British Boot Camp. Mandrews had a lot of opportunity, or had a big opportunity, but then had a bigger opportunity with the WWE. So, you can't fault him for that.
No.
It's a once in a lifetime opportunity to compete in that tournament. Yeah, he didn't win it, but he's still on the NXT UK roster and is still a former NXT UK Tag Team Champion. So, fucking incredible for him. And then you look at Rockstar Spud. Yes, he was a 2-time X Division champion, but it took a while to get there. And again, of course, now he's another free agent and a local West Midlander. So even more want to see him back on Impact. And then again, there's so many names to pick from. Nikki Cross, now Nikki Cross, who's again former Women's Tag Team Champion and Raw Women's Champion. There is so much incredible talent that appeared on that show, and you got to feel like Impact did play a part in getting there, because the US audience may not have been too familiar with them, which then of course led to them being signed by WWE. So I'm all for. I mean, I'm not overly keen on the fact that they come to Impact and then just go to WWE, but unfortunately that's happened more times than it hasn't happened.
Yeah.
But I mean, I want to see local talent on the show. Maybe it doesn't have to be. I don't have to feature them in big like marquee matches. Have a battle royal here and there. Put them in. Give the local audience a pop. That are familiar with this person. So I'm for it, but I can understand where you're coming from on that, because it is an Impact Wrestling show. But when I go back to the 2018 show at MediaCon, I think having a British roster on there helped that show quite a lot, because Impact had promised a fair few wrestlers for that show to come over, and yet we still had some big stars coming over. We still had LAX, we still had Sue Young, Sammy Callahan, Rich Swann, Matt Sydal, Trevor Lee. I could go on and on, but we were promised Johnny Impact, but for whatever reason he didn't come over. We promised so many others, but again, cards subject to change.
Yeah.
But they had, but all the people had great matches with local talent. Eddie Edwards and Justin Stizem had a phenomenal match against Moose and Nathan Cruz. Just a great match. And at the time, it was Impact in partnership with WOS, World of Sport. So I liked World of Sport a lot. I was watching it when he came back. Even I thought it was great. So, but yeah, I can understand where you're coming from. There's just so many great talent that I'd love to see appear on Impact. For me, as a fan of that person, as a fan of the company, as a fan of the person, I'd love to see him pop up on Impact.
Yeah, I'm not adverse to people getting opportunities, and I think one guest match in like the first match or the second match, or even one person that they bring in to wrestle one of the top stars, that's absolutely fine. But when you've got a whole show of, I don't know, let's say Josh Alexander versus Nathan Cruz, for example, if you have a whole show of Impact versus the UK, then the effect of Impact Wrestling coming over for a show is lost.
Yeah.
If you're going to do a UK tour, it needs to be Impact Wrestling. They need to be on the marquee as their own brand. It can't be Impact versus anyone else. It can't be Impact featuring, Progress or whoever. It needs to be Impact Wrestling. People are going to pay to go and watch Impact Wrestling. So yeah, as I say, I'm not adverse to people getting opportunities, and a dark match. No, not a dark match. One or two matches in the show featuring British talent is fine. But yeah, it needs to be Impact Wrestling.
No, I understand that. It's just Impact need to get their asses back over here. I understand.
Yes.
There's logistical problems that go into getting a show over here. But they can hire. Let's bring hires over here. There's buildings they can use. There's talent they can bring over. So this Impact, please come back over here, and hopefully that will lead to a TV deal.
And this conversation leads perfectly into the interview that I did with Len Davies, TBNChats number 3, and probably 4, because we had a lot to talk about and we didn't get to hardly any of it. But yeah, Len was very instrumental in the logistics of Impact or TNA wrestling coming to the UK in 2008, and then on through like 2012 or 13. And he's got some incredible stories from those tours, and a story we didn't get to, but he told me after we finished recording, will absolutely blow you away. It is when TNA were touring Europe, and it's from Zurich, and it involves Scott Steiner, and it is mad. So I can't wait to get that story out of Len on a future interview, because it's crazy.
Well, there we go. Stick around, and who knows, you might see it at the end, but it will come out very soon on our YouTube channel. Speaking of YouTube, you can follow us here, there, and everywhere: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Sounder, Spotify, and wherever else you podcast. I've been the MIC. He's been Nixon, and will continue to be Nixon. Until next time, goodbye, my friends.